Hi. So I've been searching around on the internet for common questions that people ask about weight loss. Many of the questions that I found online, I have pretty much answered already. But there's one that I don't think I spent enough time on. I may have mentioned it in passing or as part of another lesson, for lack of a better term, but it's something that I think is good to really review in depth at this time because it may have been a struggle that you have had in your past weight loss journeys. And while I'm talking about addressing questions that people have about weight loss, please feel free to post a question, or you can even direct message me a question and I'll put a video out about it. I love that. I love when people have questions for me and I can put out a video in response to that question so that everybody can benefit from the question that is asked. And don't worry, I won't embarrass you and tell everyone who asked me the question. I'll simply say something like, so a question was raised today about, and then I'll discuss it. Okay, there are a lot of questions on the web about the weight loss plateau, the dreaded weight loss plateau. And a plateau basically means that your progress has been halted. You're not making any more progress. And so the question is, why does that happen? Okay. Not only am I going to answer why does it happen, but I'm also going to answer what do you do about it, which is more important. Okay, so why does a weight loss plateau happen? Week in, week out, you're losing weight, 1 to 2 pounds a week, let's say, maybe even a half a pound, if you're doing it a little bit more slowly, which is fine. And then all of a sudden, you're not losing weight anymore. Okay, if it's the first week that this happens, where like you're losing weight week by week by week, and then all of a sudden the next week you look at the scale and it's pretty much the same weight, do not ring the alarm bells. This I have talked about in a previous video. This happens a lot due to water weight fluctuations. Sometimes your weight loss, your fat loss in particular, is masked by water weight fluctuations or other kinds of changes that just happen, fluctuations that just happen physiologically from time to time that are going to mask your actual fat loss. And this is why it's so important not to just rely on the scale, but you also want to rely on the body tape measure. Because if the scale gives you the same reading the following week, but you've lost a half an inch around your midsection, your thighs, and clearly you've lost fat. And that would indicate either a water weight fluctuation or, which is really awesome, you gain some muscle. But do not ring the alarm bells after 1 week. Don't ring the alarm bells after 2 weeks, even if the tape measure hasn't budged. Because again, sometimes we have to wait for what's called the whoosh. And the whoosh effect is something I talked about in depth in one of my videos, which is basically a funny term that describes how sometimes our weight loss efforts, the actual result is delayed. And so you might not see that result until a couple of weeks later. And then all of a sudden, it's like you step on the scale and you've lost like 3 or 4 pounds. You didn't lose 3 or 4 pounds in that 1 week. It was just delayed because, like I said, sometimes our fat loss is masked in different ways. Now, if it's the 3rd week in a row and the weight scale has not budged, nor has the tape measurements, now we can start saying it looks like you're in a plateau. Why would you be in a plateau? Well, first, let's even make sure everyone knows what a plateau is. A plateau means no more progress is happening. You've kind of stalled in terms of your progress. And again, we wouldn't come to this conclusion until several weeks at least. So why does this happen? This happens very simply because you are no longer in a deficit. Why are you no longer in a deficit? You were losing weight before. If you're doing all the same things that you've been doing, if you've kept your calories about the same week in and week out, it stands to reason, right, that you should still be losing weight. First off, I digress for a second. You want to make sure that the calories have stayed consistent. If you look carefully at the way you've been eating over the last several weeks, you might find that you've been getting a little negligent, or you've been adding some extra meals that you haven't been accounting for, or you slowed down the exercise and haven't done it as much. You've skipped some exercise sessions maybe, and sometimes that's all it takes to halt our progress. But let's say that you've done everything pretty much the same for the last several weeks and weight loss has stopped. You are no longer in a deficit then. And the reason why you're no longer in a deficit is because you've lost a significant amount of weight, because it's only going to happen if you've lost a significant amount of weight, and your metabolic needs have changed. So when you started this weight loss journey, you were at about 3,000 calories a day to maintain that body weight. And then you put yourself in a deficit and you cut out 500 calories a day and you move down to 2,500 calories a day. Now you're in a deficit, right? 500 calorie a day deficit times 7 days a week is 3,500 calories a week. You should approximately lose a pound a week on that plan, okay? However, as our weight starts to come down, our metabolic needs change. We no longer need 3,000 calories to maintain that weight because it's not the same weight. We're now at a new weight that's maybe 10, 20, or even 30 pounds less. When you drop a good amount of weight, your metabolic needs are going to change. And what could happen is eventually you get to a point where those calories that you've been eating every day now are maintenance level for that new weight. Now, at the new weight you're at right now, your maintenance level is now 2,500 calories a day. It's not 3,000 calories a day. You're not in a deficit anymore. So that's why it happens. Now, here's the problem for people like us. People like us all of a sudden start ringing alarm bells. And here's some of the alarm bells that you're going to ring, right? I've explained why it happens, right? And so the answer is quite simple. You need to now reduce your calories further. Why for us is that such a big deal? I'll tell you why it's such a big deal for us. Even thinking that, you may have not necessarily known that happened, but in, an attempt to try to keep the progress going, you may have come to that conclusion, like, I need to change something to keep the progress going. Maybe you didn't know physiologically why it happened. And then there's that fear that, like, oh my gosh, less calories. I already cut out 500 calories a day, and I was fine with that. Everything was going so well. I was sticking with my plan. Things were working well. I was comfortable. I definitely was not too uncomfortable, but 500 calories a day, and now I have to go even more. I have to get rid of even more calories. I don't think I can do that. The reality of the situation is, of course you can do that. Of course you can do that. You may not have picked up on the cues. You may not have even noticed that being on the plan has gotten easier. Or maybe you thought that the reason why being on the plan has been easier is simply because you just got used to the lifestyle change. That's part of it. But it's gotten easier because you slowly, decrease that deficit, because the weight that you lost over time caused your caloric needs to change. And so the reason why it was getting easier is because now 2,500 calories as your new maintenance level is as easy to maintain as 3,000 calories a day. I assure you, physiologically, the reality of the situation is that 3,000 calories that was your maintenance level back then is just as easy to maintain as 2,500 calories now, because that's all you require. But in our mind, we are still stuck on our old self and thinking like, oh, I have to cut out even more calories from 3,000. And you don't. You have to cut calories out from 2,500, which is your new maintenance level. As people that have a psychological dependency to calories, to food, the idea of this freaks us the heck out, because we think irrationally that, oh my gosh, this is going to cause such discomfort. So you're telling me I have to now maybe cut out another 500 calories? That's 1,000 calories a day deficit, but it's not. It's a 500 calorie a day deficit. You have new needs. And trust me, the new deficit is not going to be any more uncomfortable than the deficit that you started with when you started your weight loss journey. It's all in your head. But that is a problem, because if you don't get out of your head, if you don't expunge that irrational idea, you're going to throw in the towel and say, the heck with this, it's too hard. And not only might you throw in the towel in terms of continuing to try to lose weight, you might throw in the towel altogether and say, you know what, this is just too darn hard. I'm just going back to the way I used to eat. It's not worth it. It's just too hard. It's going to make me too uncomfortable. And that is completely irrational, because there's no reason why you should be any more uncomfortable at this point as you were when you first started. That shows the psychological impact of cutting calories, that it's not real, this perceived discomfort or anticipated discomfort, right? Because there's two processes. First, it's the anticipated discomfort, like, oh, this is going to be too hard now. No way, I can't believe I got to cut out more calories. This is way too hard. And then there is the actual perceived discomfort, which is, now you start the journey, you say, I don't think I can do this. This is going to be too uncomfortable. Here we go. I'm cutting out another 500 calories a day. Then you start going down your weight loss path and you're like, oh my gosh, this is way too uncomfortable. I knew it. But you didn't prove anything. All you proved is that your mind can exaggerate experiences to make them fit with your perception. So if you think it's going to be really, really difficult, then you are going to overinterpret hunger cues or any kind of physiological cues. What is mildly uncomfortable is going to be extremely uncomfortable. Or what would seemingly be almost unnoticeable will become very noticeable. Like, oh, I felt a little sensation in my stomach. I knew it. I'm starving. This is too hard. And there's all these exaggerated responses now at this point. The reason why I really wanted to focus on this is, one, because I saw on the internet that this is one of the top questions But two, it has so much importance for people like us who have failed time and time again on our weight loss journey, because this is one of the reasons we have failed. This is a big one. Many of us have started weight loss journeys many times and have lost some weight, but we never were able to get to our ultimate goal. Let's say we needed to lose, and when I say need, we needed in terms of that was our goal, to lose 50 pounds. And we got down 20 pounds and we hit this plateau, and we just concluded that either the plan doesn't work anymore, or we came to the right conclusion, which is we just need to tweak the plan and create a little bit more of a deficit. And we concluded that that was just going to make us too uncomfortable. There's absolutely no reason why you would feel more uncomfortable. Let me give you an analogy. You buy a car. It gets about 20 miles per gallon. Eventually, you buy a new car. You buy maybe a hybrid that is much more fuel efficient. And this car gets 50 miles per gallon. You're now not going to the gas station as much. You don't need as much fuel. Do we freak out? Do we say, oh my God, something is wrong with this situation. This is not good. Or, I shouldn't have gotten a car that doesn't require as much fuel. It should need more fuel. It's got to have more fuel. Why doesn't it take more fuel? Sounds ludicrous, right? But that's exactly what's going on here. You've now turned yourself into the hybrid version that requires less fuel. And that is all. It doesn't make the ride more bumpy. It doesn't make the ride less comfortable. It just simply is a point at which you need less fuel. You're more fuel efficient, or you just simply need less fuel to do the same amount of work. That is awesome. That is, rather than looking at that as, oh my God, this is not going to be good. I have to, cut even more calories. I don't require as many calories anymore. Rather than ringing the alarm bells like that, why don't we look at this and say, this is proof that I have done some good work. If ever I doubted the success that I have had, this is huge. Not only have I lost a lot of weight, but I've lost so much weight that I've changed my metabolic needs, that I actually don't need as much fuel because my body is smaller. It doesn't require as much fuel. What a testament to my progress. That is the way we need to react when this happens. So this is Dr. Fields with something to think about. Please, if you have any questions, if you are fine with sharing it with the group or posting it on my Facebook page or in response to one of my videos in a comment, that's fine. But if you want to be a little bit more discreet and just have me answer your question, you can certainly direct message me. This is Dr. Fields, and I hope you all are ultimately successful on your weight loss journey.